All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. This was a quote from the old Irish philosopher Edmund Burke, who stated that it is our responsibility as individuals to stand up against injustice, uphold our values, and actively contribute to a world that celebrates the best of humanity. Now, I don't know if you've been paying any attention lately, but humanity isn't doing too good right now. In fact, we seem to be heading down a very dangerous path torn apart by ideological battles, divisive narratives, and a constant push for so-called equality that often leaves a trail of resentment and confusion. Men in particular are caught in the crossfire of a cultural war that questions the very essence of masculinity. You see, the world's been hit by a wave of feminism and woke culture, and it's been chipping away at our true essence as men. We're told to suppress our natural instincts, to apologize for our strengths, and to tiptoe around carefully constructed minefields of political correctness. The emasculation of men has become a recurring theme, and many have had enough, including myself. It just seems like everywhere I go these days, people just seem to be confused about who they are, identifying themselves with Lord knows how many pronouns, expecting that we all should go along with the madness. Not even mentioning the half-naked trans individuals dancing in front of young kids, biological males competing in women's sports completely dominating the competition, or the increasingly growing group of supposedly intelligent people in positions of power nonetheless, who can't seem to answer the most basic fundamental question, which is, what is a woman?
What is a woman?
And all of this is happening in the name of progress. Well, luckily, more and more men are finally realizing that there is nothing progressive about a bunch of liberals who seem to be confused about their identity, or a movement that misleads and brainwashes people, especially women, into thinking that men and women are somehow equal, ignoring any biological differences between us. Now, you can say whatever you want about men such as Andrew Tate or Jordan Peterson, but if there's one thing they've massively succeeded in, is that both of them have placed the subject of traditional masculinity back on the agenda, urging men to reassess the current state of the world. The result? An increasingly growing group of men who are slowly but surely coming to the realization that the West is indeed spiraling downwards. And this realization is not confined to just one corner of the globe. It's spreading like wildfire, crossing borders and bridging cultures. Now, as a result of this, new movements are emerging. I mean, if you've paid any attention, you've probably noticed that the vibes are changing. Like, you can feel that there is a shift taking place and that the pendulum is slowly starting to shift in the other direction. Quite literally. Day by day, you can see a growing number of men voicing their discontent and turning away from all these woke ideologies being propagated, including modern feminism that, unfortunately, has brainwashed a significant portion of young women in the West. And listen, I get it. This whole feminist agenda, the woke culture, it's been coming at us from all sides. A lot of women in the West are getting caught up in these ideas that make it seem like being a man is somehow a problem. Do you know what's really messed up? A lot of these women don't even realize that in a few years from now, when they're getting closer to 40 and are still unmarried and childless, most of them will regret that they bought into all this garbage in the first place. And I see it happening all around me. If you don't believe me, just look at the data. A recent study from Morgan Stanley estimates that 45% of women in their prime working years, meaning ages 25 to 44, will be single and childless by the time 2030 arrives. And the crazy part is that all of this is happening in the name of so-called women empowerment. Like, women have been fed this narrative. They've been fed this idea that a woman without a ring on her finger or kids by her side is some kind of superhero steering her own ship. And don't get me wrong, it's cool that women have choices, no doubt. I think they absolutely should. But let's peel back the layers for a sec. Because like I said, many young women have been led to believe that dodging family life is the ultimate badge of empowerment. And similarly, that having a family is the ultimate badge of failure. Like somehow being a mom and being a spouse is equated to being shackled. But is that really the case? Like, is that really the whole picture? Women being slaves to their husband? Or could it be that having a family has nothing to do with slavery at all, but with sacrifices having to be made on both sides so that two people can build a life together in unity? Look, I'm not saying every woman has to be a mom or a wife. No way, like of course not. What I'm saying is, let's not downplay the power of family, of partnership. Like, I truly believe that real empowerment is about having choices, and if a woman chooses the path of family and partnership, that is just as powerful as any other choice. Because I don't buy into this idea that marriage is about chaining anyone down. It's about finding someone who's got your back and you got theirs. It's about having shared dreams and shared responsibilities with each their unique roles so the both of you can create a life that's greater than the sum of its parts. And you know what? More and more guys are seeing this too. It's not like we're against the idea of marriage or commitment, it's just that the modern marriage game can feel like navigating a freaking minefield sometimes. It just feels like too big of a risk, especially if you look at it from a financial angle. But hey, let's be real. That doesn't mean we're void of feelings or desires. Truth is, most of us do crave that connection, that stability, and yeah, the dream of a warm home with a family to call our own. Like I know I do. So as men, we are at this crossroad, right? Like, we want the genuine partnership and the connection, like the whole ride or die kind of thing, but the modern scene seems to be moving further away from the traditional values we grew up with, and as a result, more and more men are looking for alternative options. Enter the rise of the passport bros. Now, if you've been paying any attention to what is going on in the world, you might have caught wind of this already, and some people might even think that this movement is just like a bunch of incels, as many of them like to call it, who are hopping on a plane and jet setting somewhere foreign to find an exotic wife. But I personally think that it's much bigger than that. I think that the reason why this movement is gaining so much traction is because many men just had enough of all this woke BS and they just want to go and find that genuine connection in places where traditional values still hold strong. You know, where men are still men and women are still women without having to be concerned about their freaking pronouns.
My name is Optimus Prime.
Now let's be honest, who can blame them? No guy signs up for a relationship just to be in this never-ending competition with his partner, all while she's on a mission to prove a point about some vague idea of the patriarchal oppression. Likewise, no dude wants to find himself stuck in the awkward position of explaining to his girl why her strategically angled bikini shots on Instagram might not exactly be the glue that holds a solid relationship together. And equally, no man really wants to explain why having a bunch of guy friends isn't exactly as clear-cut as it's often portrayed, and that most times it's more like a group of hopeful individuals just waiting for their chance to step out of the friend zone if given even half the opportunity. So yeah, in this climate of blurred lines and confusing expectations, it's no wonder that men are seeking alternatives. I mean, the rise of the so-called passport bro movement isn't all that surprising to me if I'm being really honest. Men are just genuinely longing for authentic, real connections that aren't tangled in these ideological battles. They just desire a simple, yet meaningful relationship that resonates with the traditional roles we've seen throughout history, where men were unapologetically men and women were unapologetically women. And I don't even think that these men are necessarily running away from strong women or shunning independence. Instead, they're searching for, let's say, a more harmonious dance of companionship where both partners understand and appreciate each other's unique strengths and attributes. And I believe that's a good thing. Like, men should be allowed to have standards without being labeled as toxic or controlling. Because the truth is, many women appreciate and want a dominant man. They just don't like to admit it. And the reason they don't like to admit it is because they have been convinced into believing that being submissive somehow equates to being inferior.
What?
Which is far from accurate. Because when both individuals embrace their unique roles, they can complement each other in ways that feel both natural and fulfilling. This isn't to say that modern relationships can be successful or meaningful, but for many men, the way things are going right now, with all the constant pressure to conform into something that they don't identify themselves with, is just no longer an option. And it's really not that surprising if you think about it. Because let's be honest, the values we were raised with, the roles we saw our parents and grandparents embrace, they hold a deep significance. I mean, we are literally talking about our DNA here, one that's deeply connected to protecting and providing, and consequently also recognizing and acknowledging that there are significant differences between men and women. And so many men just want a partner who shares those views, who embraces being feminine, and who appreciates that masculine energy that we can bring to the table, instead of being all brainwashed into thinking that all men are trash by some lame-ass Barbie movie that is once again pushing the agenda a little bit further. Now, I do want to give a small disclaimer though, because although I do understand why the idea of seeking companionship abroad might resonate with you, it's very vital to approach it with, let's say, the right mindset and preparation. It's easy to point fingers and complain about women, but the truth is, a lot of you probably need to take a long, hard look in the mirror first before even considering about settling down with some woman from abroad. Because this thing here called a relationship, this is a two-way street. So just as you're looking for someone who embodies your values and aspirations, they're searching for the same in you. So before you decide to dive into international dating, take some time to work on yourself first, your financial stability, your physical well-being, your personal growth. These things all play an integral role in the equation. They're a fundamental part of fostering a healthy and fulfilling relationship so the both of you can be happy. So, anyways, there you have it. My thoughts on the matter. If you found this video interesting and or entertaining, please don't forget to show some support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. It would truly mean the world to me. And in the meantime, stay strong, stay savage.